Okay, everyone, it is 2 o'clock, so we are ready to get started. First of all, I wanted to thank all of you for jumping on today. As you know, we're going to be talking about interviewing, just kind of best practices and what's going to work best so we're able to get the best candidates that we can. So, we all have those situations where we interview someone, they come in and they are less than great. And sometimes it seems like there aren't ways to prevent this. However, doing a thorough, structured interview process is definitely something that can help us see those signs and make sure that, again, we're only bringing in the best people that we can. So to get started, ah, okay, sorry. So first of all, applicant viewing, as you all know, you should be viewing your applications every day. We want to make sure that the people that we want aren't gone by the time we reach out to them. So make sure that you're constantly viewing these applications, reaching out. We have the texting now to be able to make things easier. So that's basically where we start in the process. After you see an application that you want to reach out to, it's always helpful to try to set up a phone screen. Reason being is because you might get somebody on the phone before an interview that you figure out you really don't want to bring in. All of you wear many different hats. You have a lot on your plate. So as much time as we can save you is obviously ideal. So by doing that phone screen again, you can decide whether this person's even worth the time to bring in. And to set up the phone screen, you can use the texting app. Whenever I interview managers or anyone in here, I'll just send a text basically to ask when they're available for a phone call that week. It seems to be as successful as it would be reaching out over the phone, probably more successful and more of a response rate. And then Pam and I last year updated the applicant interview guide. That's going to be a really helpful tool for that phone screen, just to make sure that we're getting the basic information. You don't want to take up a full phone call for an interview. We just want to get small bits and pieces to see, again, if the person is worth it to bring in. So if you do a phone screen with somebody and decide, this person isn't going to be a good fit, I don't want to bring them in, you could just let them know, you're going to review their information with your management team. You'll get back to them once they decide, if they're a good fit or if there's a position opening. There are different ways around it, so you don't have to necessarily reject them on that call, and make it a little bit awkward. So again, to set up the phone screen, you can say anything along the lines of, hi Delaney, I received your application for a server position at Haas's in Meadville. I'd love to discuss that position further. When would be a good time to give you a call this week? And then again, if things don't go great, you can use the texting app to reject them as well. Hi Delaney, we appreciate your interest in a position with Haas's. After reviewing our pool of applicants, we've decided to move forward with another candidate. We'll keep your resume on file for future opportunities, and thank you again. We never want to handle a rejection after an interview poorly, because that could still be a guest that's coming in to our restaurant. So we don't want to leave a sour taste in their mouth about how we are as a company and who our management team is. So always make sure that you're very polite and cordial, and let them know that we'll consider them in the future, even if it's not true. So you've done the phone screen, you want to bring somebody in. You want to make sure that they are as comfortable as they can whenever they're coming. So give them the information about what time the interview is going to happen, what the address of your restaurant is, where the best place for them to park would be. We don't want anyone to be more stressed than they're already going to be. A lot of the applicants we get are minors. This might be their first job, so they're already on edge. We want to make sure that they know exactly what they're coming into. Doing your homework, I do this a lot with my interviews. I look at the application, the resume before they get there and make notes of things that I know I want to ask. So if it's somebody that is in high school, they've never had a job, but they've listed that they play sports on their application. You could make note of that, asking them about teamwork, asking them about, their work ethic and how that plays into the sports. You can save a lot of time that you might use coming up with questions during the actual interview if you just take a look at the resume in advance. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And then let the other people in your location know that you're going to be doing this interview. We don't want you to be talking to someone in a booth and people are constantly coming up asking questions. Of course, if there's an emergency situation, they might need you, but just let them know that you're going to need time to conduct this interview. And also, especially for the hostess, for example, if there's somebody coming in for an interview, give them a heads up so they can put on their best smile, so they can really make sure to make a good impression for the person coming in for that interview. And of course, our hosts should always be friendly and smiling and enjoying themselves. However, we want to make sure it's extra important when you know that you have someone coming in. So once you actually get the applicant in your restaurant, of course, you want to introduce yourself, ask them if they want a drink, just try to make things as comfortable as you can, as I mentioned. Give some information about yourself, about your experience with the company. I could say, my name's Delaney. I'm the employee talent manager with Haas's and Marzonis. I've been with the company for over 2 years, just to get the conversation starting. You don't want to walk them to the table in dead silence, and you don't want to sit down at the table and immediately start bombarding them with questions. You want to make sure that you have that rapport before you actually start getting into the interview itself. And then it's always good to let them know what the interview will be like. So, of course, thank them for coming in and then relate to them. I'm just going to be asking you some questions about your experience today. I want you to make sure that, you ask any questions that you can. We're going to go over the duties of the position itself. So it just will help them relax a little bit if they know exactly what they're walking into. And then assure them that it's just a conversation. That's something that I like to use a lot whenever I'm interviewing, just again, to get people more relaxed. It doesn't have to be just one person or the other talking. It's really just a conversation. As managers, of course, we all have people skills that we're able to use to build relationships with the guests. It should be no different whenever you're interviewing a candidate or having somebody on your team. So this is just if we had to have a script, introducing yourself. Hi, Pam, I'm Delaney. Shake their hand. Hopefully they shake back. Start walking over to the booth. Can I grab you a drink? Then sitting down, I appreciate you coming in today, Pam. I know we talked a little bit on the phone, but I'm excited to learn a little bit more about your experience. Just to give you a little background, I'm the general manager here at Meadville. I've been with Haas's since I was 16 and worked as a server up until 2020 when I stepped into management. Even though we call this an interview, I really want to have a casual conversation and learn more about your experience and what you're looking for. It's just as important for you to want to work somewhere you're comfortable and feel at home as it is for us to bring someone onto the team. So after we chat, if you have any questions at all about the position or company, I would be happy to answer them. So again, you can do any variation of that, and you don't want to have an actual script in front of you, but that's kind of the basis of how you're setting the scene for the conversation. And then, as mentioned earlier, we have this nice little applicant interview guide. It can be used for the phone screen initially and then used in the interview as well. So the way that we set it up is the information we're looking for is there at the top. So do they have job-related experience? Are they willing to consider other positions? Are they currently employed? All of that. So job-related experience is number one. A corresponding question would be there at the bottom to get that information. So have you ever worked in a restaurant before? The reason for that is just to make sure we don't sound too formal whenever we're asking these questions. So instead of sitting down with someone and saying, do you have job related experience? Hey, have you ever worked in a restaurant before? Those are just to make your life easier to get that information and kind of have those prompts in case you would use them. Again, as the manager, you can ask whatever questions you want legally, but we did come up with some ideas to get that information as well. So if you're going to use this sheet, you don't have to use all of those questions in order, but they should make sense of how you're asking them. So if you sit down with them and the first question you ask is, are you willing to work another position? You haven't gotten into any of the actual information yet. So you don't want to jump in with something that doesn't make sense. And based on the conversation you're having with them, you might see perfect opportunities to kind of add that question in that you would want to use. So just make sure that it's flowing. Again, it's a conversation, but this can be a really helpful guide to kind of help you get the information that you need. And working outside of the applicant sheet as well, you're going to get some answers that you might have follow-up questions for. Again, the review sheet is a guide, so you don't have to stick right to it. If somebody tells you, how my previous boss says my greatest strength is their work ethic, well, you might want to ask how, excuse me, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Ask what they did to be recognized for that. How did they get into that status of having a great work ethic? We can't come up with every scenario of what people are going to say in follow-up questions for the actual applicant sheet. So just kind of use your people skills to be able to develop those questions. But as I mentioned earlier, you still have to keep it legal. So if somebody tells you, oh, I volunteer at my church in my spare time, don't say, oh, what religion are you? What do you believe in? We can't ask that. And everyone knows just from Campbell U and your training, the specific things that you should and should not ask people about. So again, this sheet is on the portal for all of you to use. I would encourage you to use it. I think it can be really helpful for all of you. And yeah, I can send direct instructions of how to get there on the portal as well. I know we've sent it before, but if anyone goes looking for it and can't find it, just reach out. So the title on this is Assume Everyone is a Liar, and that might sound a little bit harsh, but basically the basis behind that is that we want to make sure that people are good workers and not just good interviewers. So asking open-ended questions, if you ask somebody if they're hardworking, they're going to say, yeah, well, 99% of them. I've had some people tell me that they aren't hard workers, and that's caught me off guard. But by asking more direct questions to them that they can't just say, well, yes, no. Sometimes you want to make sure that they can explain themselves and then have them back up to you what they're saying. So if someone tells you, again, they're a top performer at their previous job, what did you do to obtain that status? What makes you a hard worker? What motivates you to work hard? You want them to actually put thoughts out there and not just have them Google, how to be great in an interview before you talk to them and have them give you generic answers. Ask them to actually back up what they're telling you. And then job descriptions, I think, are a really good resource to use as well. Just to have it on the table after you ask the questions, just give them the job description and say, read down through this, tell me what you think. Do you think that you're able to do these job responsibilities? And explain in your own words as well, different aspects of the jobs. And you want to make sure that you're actually realistic about what they're going to be doing. I know some of us are still understaffed and we need people and we want to bring in every person that walks into our building. But if we lie to them about what they're doing or don't give a clear picture of what the responsibilities are going to look like, they're going to be gone in 2 days. They're going to figure it out pretty quickly of what the job actually entails. They're going to feel lied to and they're going to leave. So just make sure that you are being 100% accurate about what you are telling them, because it will come back to bite us if we don't. And again, interviewing it's just a conversation. It's not an interrogation. You want to make sure that when you're asking questions, you're not challenging them. So when we talked earlier about, you know, I was a hard worker at my previous job. You want to say, oh, okay, well, why did your boss think you were a hard worker? Why did you get that promotion? You don't want to challenge them and be like, oh, well, what made you a hard worker? Why do you think you're so great? You don't want it to seem like you're interrogating them. And first impressions are really important just for you as a manager. I mean, that's who they're going to be reporting to. You want to make sure that you're smiling, you're personable, that they can see themselves working with you and at Haas's or Marzoni's. And if you seem like you love your job and you have been here forever and everything is great, then they'll want to work there. But if you get a bad vibe from the person that's interviewing you or for the people around you in the restaurant as an applicant, you're probably not going to want to work there. So just be yourselves, be authentic. It's just a conversation. And you also want to trust your gut. Again, we're having 15 to 18-year-olds as the bulk of our applications at this time. They might be interviewing for the first time. They might have only had one previous job. They're going to be really nervous in some cases. And just because they're nervous doesn't mean that they're a bad person to hire. It's kind of trusting your gut of seeing, is this person really just nervous, or is this a bad interview? So the answers might not be perfect. They might have to think on things. They might have some weird tendencies, like I'm having right now with my hands whenever you get nervous. Just trust your gut. If you think that something's there, then there's probably something there. You can also, of course, and you should consult with your management team after an interview. I do that with Pam a lot after I interview managers. I'll say, not really sure how I feel about this person. These are the things I really liked. These are the things that I was a little iffy on. What do you think I should do? Collaborating as a team, because you all are going to have to work with this person, even if you're not the one doing the interview. You want to talk as a team and decide, is this person a good fit? And 3, don't just hire a body. I know it's very tempting when we're understaffed and we just need someone to get in the doors, but it's proven to be more detrimental if we're just bringing in a body. Again, the turnover increases, they slow down production. It's going to take time to hire a perfect team if you're ever going to have one, but we don't want to bring somebody in just as a body. We want to make sure that we're thoroughly interviewing them and to make sure that they are a good fit for the team. And then overall, I mean, you're in the driver's seat. You are the one that's conducting the interview. The person across from you is the one that wants the job. Yes, we need people and we want people. We don't have to indicate that to them. They should be, and this is in the politest terms, trying to prove themselves to you as a manager. You don't want to let them take control. You don't want it to be as if we're trying to convince them. This is an interview where we have the position and we're hiring for it. So be confident whenever you're doing the interview. Again, I know we ourselves get nervous. I still get nervous whenever I interview sometimes as well. I probably say really stupid things, but again, you're the one in control and you should act like it without being, like we talked about earlier, kind of arrogant about it, and that you have the world and they have to do backflips to obtain it from you. Again, you want to be really honest about the job. If you really like the interview person, you can even walk them around after, show them the different areas, show them specifically where they're going to be working so they can kind of see what happens in the background, especially for the back of the house people. Front of the house people, you know, your servers, your hosts, kind of the generic job duties that they have. Back of the house is a whole different game. Until you've been back there, you don't know what it's like. You don't know the temperature, you don't know how crowded it could be, how much is going on at one time. So take them back there, show them, hey, this is what you're going to be doing. How do you feel about that? You'll be able to tell if they're a little overwhelmed or if they're excited, and they might vocalize that to you. You know, hey, this is a little chaotic. I don't know if I would want to work back here. And then use the interview sheet. Again, it's created to make your lives easier. You don't have to read right off of it. I don't want you to read right off of it because, again, you want to be genuine. You want to just have that conversation. But if you're in a bind, it's there for you, just so you can get the information that you need without having to think too much on your feet. Okay, we do have some time left. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Or just wants to talk to me?
I always want to talk to you, but chat's open too if you want to type them in.
Well, my office is 2 over from you, Pam, so we can talk after. Okay, I mean, I guess if no one has anything, you guys all know how to reach me if you have any questions that you think of, any feedback, anything in your interview process that you think has been working well that you might want to share. Again, feel free to contact me, but we got done a little bit early. I appreciate all of you getting on today. Again, I hope this was a little bit helpful for you guys. If anyone, again, ever wants advice, if you want to practice interviewing, anything that I can help with, I am definitely available. So I guess get back to work. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.